Hi guys, welcome back. In our previous two videos, we were analyzing some sentences for verbals. We learned a little about verbal phrases. We learned about how to figure out the functions of these verbals, what they were doing in the sentence, right? But as I had already told you, our work regarding this topic is not done yet. We are to cover some details regarding, more specifically, I would say, infinitives and gerunds. I'm going to be focusing now more on infinitives and gerunds from now on, and I'm going to focus mostly on semantic aspects, okay? So for starters, let's discuss infinitives and gerunds as subjects. As you know, infinitive can be a noun and gerunds are nouns, right? We already know that. And if an infinitive can be a noun and a gerund can be a noun, then by logic both of them can share some functions. They can both be subjects, right? So let's talk about infinitives and gerunds as subjects right now. Normally we say that when we use a gerund as a subject, that we involve personal experience. Like, if I use a gerund, I really know what I am talking about because I have lived it. That's the way we normally understand a gerund acting as a subject. And then we have infinitives as subjects, which do not require personal experience for us to discuss these issues, right? If I have a subject expressed with an infinitive, it doesn't necessarily mean that I know particularly in my own flesh what I am talking about. I'm gonna show you. Slurping your soup is in bad taste in many cultures. Now I'm using slurping here, and we could say that I have experienced this because I have slurped soup, right? Although I could also simply say here, to slurp your soup is in bad taste in many cultures. It gives a more detached feel in this case if I use an infinitive and not a gerund. Besides, let's face it, there are certain things we don't want to own up to. So maybe you don't want to use a gerund in those embarrassing cases, right? Fighting cancer has given me a new outlook on life. Well, over here, if I am using this phrase, that means that I have personal experience regarding the fight against cancer. On the other hand, if I use to fight cancer requires the support of family, and being more objective, we could say, I achieve a more detached feel from the experience. To give birth must be an amazing experience. That definitely is a sentence that I particularly could not be able to employ using the gerund because I have and will not, I am unable to experience what to give birth is like in my own flesh, right? But of course, a mom can truly, most likely, right, say that if she has had her baby and not adopted, right? She can say giving birth is an amazing experience, right? So we could see this difference between infinitives and gerunds when they act as subjects. Now, let's move on a little and let's talk about direct objects. Again, because both gerunds and infinitives can be direct objects, then we are faced with certain issues that are going to be quite interesting. For starters, I want you to notice that there are certain transitive verbs that allow us to have direct objects expressed only with a gerund, right? Like right here. Some transitive verbs only allow gerunds, okay? Some other transitive verbs only allow infinitives after them to act as direct objects. Get it? Now, there are some cases in which you can use either a gerund or an infinitive after the transitive verb. You can use either or, but check out, there is going to be no or little change in meaning. That is to say, whether you use an infinitive or a gerund does not particularly affect the meaning of what you mean to say, whatever you want to say. But there are cases in which, and I think this is the most important for us to understand, that there are cases in which I can use a gerund or an infinitive after a transitive verb, but there is going to be a difference in the meaning that we express. So if we use gerunds or infinitives incorrectly after these specific verbs, then we may end up saying something that we don't mean. And here is the importance of understanding this particular issue, okay? Now, in the textbook, and I hope you have gotten it, it's English Grammar 2 Handbook, right? You will find a list of this list. Okay, let me explain. You will find a list of verbs that are followed only by gerunds in order to get a direct object. You will find a list of verbs that are followed by infinitives in order to get direct objects, and then you are going to find a list to find a gerund or an infinitive that provides no change or a little change in meaning, and of course you will find a list of verbs that, whether you use a gerund or an infinitive, will provide a difference in meaning. These lists are for illustrative purposes, okay? My purpose in the subject is not to ask you to memorize lists of verbs. That is not the point of this subject. I don't mean to take you as an empty vessel, right, that I need to fill out with information. No, I want you to think about this, and I need you to be responsible for your own learning. If I did that, if I gave you like very, very particular sets of pieces of information that I want you to say the way I want you to say it, you will be no more than parakeets. And that's not the education that I want for you. I want you to be critical. I want you to think about what I'm saying, and I want you to disagree with me. I want you to disagree with me with evidence, right? That's important. If you are going to disagree with whatever teacher, at least have some support for your opinion, right? That is fantastic, and I always welcome when people don't agree with what I say, because in this way it opens my understanding of many things. But if you want me to give you a list of verbs for you to learn so that you don't forget these verbs, come on guys, if you think about it, there are so many verbs that I don't know, that I have never seen in my life, that I have never used. So definitely I do not know all the verbs. But with practice, the more you practice these infinitives and gerunds, you start to get a feel of whether you are going to use a gerund or an infinitive. Anyway, moving on. Now, let's talk about infinitives as direct objects. When we have infinitives as direct objects, we are going to find three different possibilities. I know it starts to feel a little complex, but just relax. Look, if you have a verb plus an infinitive that provides you a direct object, you have the possibility to have simply the verb and the infinitive, and examples of verbs that allow us to do this construction are pledge and resolve, and we have many more, of course. There's another possibility for you to have an infinitive acting as a direct object. You could have the verb plus an object plus an infinitive. Get it? So this object is going to be very commonly an object pronoun, but not only, okay? But it's very likely that this object is going to be an object pronoun, and this object is going to be the indirect object. because remember that the infinitive is going to be the direct object. And examples of these verbs that allow this situation to happen are convince and invite. And finally, we have this other possibility to have an infinitive acting as a direct object in which we have an object, but it's optional. Well, not optional, that's not what I meant to say. What I meant to say is that these verbs, like want and help, allow you to have an object and an infinitive, or simply to have the infinitive acting as a direct object. If you have the object though, remember that this object is going to be an indirect object, right? Please bear that in mind. But in this case, it's a possibility that may or may not happen to have the object. And again, examples of verbs that allow this construction are the verb want and the verb help. Let's see some examples so that you can figure out what I'm talking about. The knight has pledged what? To serve the House of Windsor. Here we have this verb allows you to have an infinitive acting as a direct object. Pledge is a transitive verb, right? It allows this construction. The immigrant longed the return. The immigrant longed to return to Guatemala. There you have it. The immigrant longed what? To return to Guatemala. That's a direct object. Now, Roman invited us to have breakfast with him. In this case, I need to use this object. With invite, I need this object pronoun right here. Roman invited us to have breakfast with him. Now, Roman invited what? To have breakfast with him. To whom? To us, right? So, I have the direct object right here, and us, which would be the indirect objects. That one, the element that receives the direct object. The colonel demanded his troops to stand their ground. I want you to check. This word is written with two L's, but you don't say colonel, you say colonel. The colonel commanded his troops to stand their ground. The colonel commanded what? To stand their ground. That's what he commanded. Stand your ground. To whom did he command that? To his troops. So his troops is the indirect object, and to stand their ground is the direct object. Jamal wants us to cover for him with his parents. Jamal wants whom? Us. He wants what? He wants us to do what? To cover for him with his parents, right? But what he wants is to cover for him with his parents, and he wants us to do this. Here we have another example. They will want to tag along. As you can see, in this case, I can have this direct object with the object pronoun with this object or not. This is optional. Well, not optional, again, is not the right word, but I can have the two different constructions. Why do I say that it's not optional? Because it's not like the object pronoun makes a difference, because it does make a difference. The doctor advised Mariana to eat less meat. The doctor advised what? To eat less meat. To whom did he advise this? To Mariana. So, to eat less meat, direct object, and Mariana, indirect object. Dave advised not to leave our homes during the storm. Dave advised what? Not to leave our homes during the storm. And that is the case, guys, of the infinitives acting as direct objects. We have these three different possibilities in which I have the infinitive, the verb plus the infinitive, or the verb and the object and the infinitive, or the verb and an optional object and the infinitive. In the next video, guys, I'm going to continue talking to you about the verbs that are followed by infinitives and gerunds that have little meaning change or no meaning change at all. I'll see you guys in the next video.